let's take a look at Avalon Hill's Wizard Quest. This game Hamblin actually had a hand in. I came to this fairly late. I mean, still when it was available, etc. But it was, it's obviously kind of an introductory type of game, sort of a Risk type game. I didn't get it until after I had played, you know, I don't know, Magic Realm, for example, which I played much earlier, but also a much later game, Dragon Hunt, which I did the video on, which I think is a clever little game. This one, on the other hand, always struck me as kind of meh. We'll see if I like it better. I'm surprised I haven't done it yet until I start thinking about some of the other things I haven't done. It's never been a favorite of mine, but it's fairly easy to play, and a lot of times I'm looking for something easy and quick. Problem is, this never comes to mind because it's not one of my early easy games, you know, and it's not one that really caught me, so it doesn't really hit on all wheels for me. The concept behind it, well, we'll take a look. It's an area movement combat game. I'm gonna have to grab some dice. The idea behind the game is you have 3 treasures, and then there's a secret non-treasure, which you're going to hand to the next player in turn, and they're going to hide them in plain view. I mean, they're flipped over. You can tell they're yours. If you couldn't tell they were yours, it would be kind of a problem because it's hidden trackable information. Then you know where people put it. So it's kind of cool that the counters are printed with the color on there. And your goal is to grab your 3 treasures. And if you get them all, you win the game. You can eliminate other players from the game. That doesn't guarantee you a win, incidentally. I guess you could play it so that it did, and it seems like I had a rubber band around the cards at one time, and they seem to have stuck to the map. That wasn't recently. Okay, what are your pieces? Well, you have your treasures. These little flags are your men. These are just 5 men. Make change with them. You have a sorcerer and a hero, which are kind of special pieces. You'll notice the game isn't really set up, and the reason for that is setup is part of the play of the game. Like with Risk, you do things, you make decisions during your setup. So I may video some of that, just go into a little bit of it. But the setup's kind of summarized over here. High player is going to go first. That's him. Turn passes to the left. Well, we're actually going to do my standard counterclockwise play just to be intransigent here. Each player gets to pick one of the castles, and he puts one of his guys on that to claim it, starting with the first person. Then a couple of orcs are put in the remaining castles. Since I'm playing in 6, that's going to be 2 of the castles. There's 8 castles total in the game. I can do math. And then players take turns dropping a piece on spaces on the board. And like in Risk, there's some tactical advantage to all of where you put your pieces. Once you've done that, and all the spaces have been covered, except for, you know, the orcs have a couple of castles, then you hand the treasures to the next player in line, and we're going to use an optional rule where you have a blank treasure as well. It adds a little bit to it, a little bit of annoyance if nothing else. And then the players in turn put 1 treasure at a time down on the board. One of them can go in a castle. The others have to go in territory spaces. They can't go in the space of the player who owns the treasure. So you can't cut deals right away to make it really, really easy, but you could cut deals right at the beginning of the game to make it fairly easy on each other. The advantage to that, the thing with that though, is it would have to be some kind of horrible cyclical deal. You know, you're not putting the treasures of the same person who's putting your treasures down on, which is one clever little bit of it. Okay. Then you're allowed to grab 10 more pieces and put them down on any of the spaces you occupy. And instead of 2 of your pieces, you can put down one of these 2, and you can do that twice. Okay. For the actual play of the game, the first thing that happens is the orcs. And we're going to need 2 dice, a red and a white one, because the way the orcs are going to be positioned, the way the spaces on the board are handled, is that there's different regions in the board, which are colored. So for example, this is the green region. It would be dominated, the first die roll would be a 2, and then within that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you randomly determine spaces that way. And on the turn of the orcs, and I don't remember this from the actual rules, each player tosses a die to select a region whose orc territories and bordering orc castles each receive 1 additional orc, unless the space contains the maximum of 4 orcs. I do not remember that showing up here, but yes. So the more players there are, the more orcs are going to be generated in this fashion. However, it's at the beginning of the game, the orcs are only going to be sitting on a couple of castles. So in the 2-player game, I think there are some more orcs on the board. There's special rules for that. Then the Orc's Frenzy. Any space that has 4 or more orcs is going to attack out of it. And it basically attacks, as far as I can tell from the rules. They're not always good at hammering everything down, and there aren't a lot of rules here. But as long as you're consistent, it's okay. They go into the region with the lowest number, followed by the territory with the lowest number that's adjacent to them. And then they're going to do combat into each space that they can reach. Now, adjacency is a little interesting here. For the most part, land borders, right? But bridges make things adjacent. The water does not. And then there's the Great Tunnel, which pops out over here. And these 2 spaces are considered adjacent as well. Although bridges and the Great Tunnel make combat more difficult when you're going through it. I believe when the orcs are running across the tunnel, that is the last space they'll attack through, for various reasons. Okay. So first, the attacks will be done from the lowest numbered space, starting from region, then to territory, outward, and then eventually the castles all will spawn their attacks as well. It's been a long time since I played this, and never very often. Okay. The orcs will keep attacking until there's only one of them left, and at which point, hey, they're fine. But they ignore certain spaces and don't attack them. So they will not attack, and then there's this whole list of spaces, and it's not nicely delineated. It could just be done as a bullet point of things. They won't attack other orcs. They won't attack a hero or a dragon in a space, even if there are troops there. They won't attack a space that has a wizard. This could have all been put in one thing or in bullet points that were just one word. If the space is to be attacked as empty, they don't attack it either. They grow into empty spaces at a different point. We'll talk about how combat works in a moment, but it's pretty simple. It's not quite Risk. It's not quite, Britannia, but it's a fairly simple mechanism that gets resolved reasonably quickly. Okay. After the orcs have finished all their attacks, and they can make no more, all the empty spaces on the board get an orc in it. Okay. Then we go to the dragon attack phase. The dragon is going to move at random. You roll in an 11 to 66 die roll, and you show up in a region, and you gobble things. And I believe it gobbles 4 things, or is it a die? It rolls a die, and it eats that many pieces. Now you can change for a 5 that way. And until he lands in a space with a man, hero, or sorcerer that he can gobble, he's going to keep rolling. So he'll gobble up orcs. He will never eat the wizard, though. The dragon and the wizard are the special pieces that do things. The wizard is the guy who set up this whole thing. But you can attack him, which is kind of cool. Okay. Then the wizard's turn. He makes a random roll to move someplace. Same as the dragon. He shows up in a space, and if it's a player-occupied space, it'll get 3 men of that territory, of that player. If it's orcs, he'll give them 3 orcs. What the hell? He doesn't discriminate. He also will protect the entire region that he's in, so that no one can make any attacks on that region in any of the territory, against any of the territories in that region. You can attack out of the region, you can't attack into it, as long as the wizard is there. However, you do have the capability to smack the wizard, which is something different. Then you randomly determine the first player. After that, though, you'll follow a sequence. Now, so for each turn, there's a new first player, and we'll use a little marker to remind us of that, and everybody then gets a turn. So it's a little bit of randomization without going to the whole, like, chip pull, or, you know, each player gets 1 turn, but you don't know the order type thing. During your player turn, you have the option to pull a card. If you draw it, then it may say must play, in which case you must play it. Otherwise, you follow the you can hold it. You can hold up to 2 cards hidden in, you know, your hand, and you can play it during this phase. If you have 3 of them after drawing, you must play 1. So there might be a reason not to play if you have a couple of cards that you really want to save, and you're afraid, I don't know, that you'll get a 3rd card that you really want to save and somehow feel like you've taken some loss of opportunity. I can't really think of it. Generally, I think you want to draw the damn things. But we'll see. Yeah, like I said, it's been a while since I've played. Then you get troops, and you'll be getting 1 man. Okay. So your kingdoms are considered to be a castle connected to regions. And it could include 2 castles, actually, you know, but it's contiguous areas connected to castles. Each of your kingdoms, all the areas in them are added up, and that's how many troopses you get. And then you get to slap them on the board, and I think you can put them wherever the hell you like. I don't think they have to be put in the kingdom that they're from. You get a minimum of 4 men, though. This is something that's kind of iffy in the rules, but because it seems to imply maybe you need a kingdom to get that, but I don't think that's the case. If you want to buy heroes and sorcerers, they cost 2 men still, if they've been lost. You put your pieces on the board, and then you're allowed to attack from 1 space into a single adjacent space and try to capture that space if you want. And some of the cards might give you additional attacks, stuff like that, additional troops, additional pains. We'll hold off on the battle resolution just for a moment. Okay. Let's just keep going here a little bit. So when you find one of your treasures, one of the real ones, not the fake one, you get a bonus. Now these place face down on the map, so you don't know which one's the fake one, and even if you're not playing with that option, so you don't know which bonus you might get by chasing after one. If you get the magic ring, you get a bonus petition card immediately. There's a cool thing about that bonus petition card is some of the bad events can't affect you. Like if they reduce your reinforcements, because you're not going to get reinforcements at that point. If you get the crown, you get 3 men immediately. If you get the treasure chest, you get 4 men with the treasure chest. Okay. How does combat work? You each roll a die. And you're trying to roll kind of under the number of, less than or equal to the number of troops you have in the space, more or less. But there's a limit of 4 to that, which means if you got 4 or more troops, your die roll range is 1 to 4. Whatever number you generate, that's how many hits you did to the enemy. If you have a hero in the space, you add 1 to the range. If you have a sorcerer, you add 2 to the range. And they have this if they're alone. The dragon and the wizard each have a die roll range of 6. There's some terrain effects. Forests and mountains add 1 to the die roll range if you're defending. Castles add 2. Defending across the bridge or through the Great Tunnel adds 2 to your die roll range. Since the range is also the maximum number of troops you can kill of the enemy, it's kind of a cool to have that high, right? But there's some special stuff with the attacks. So let's take a look at some of the restrictions here. Okay. Gotta hunt these down. You know, this could have all been done on one sheet of paper, really, but they had to be very verbose about it. And they don't even use all this number structure and everything. Although it does help find things, I guess. But it's got a very Yaquinto look to it. A force defending against an attack. Yeah, defending against an attack through the Great Tunnel. Okay. If both people fail to get a hit, the attacker takes 1 loss. Okay. The hero and the sorcerer. If a sorcerer is involved in a battle, that may not cause casualties. If you attack with a sorcerer, any losses you inflict aren't removed from the board, but they get dispersed into unoccupied spaces or spaces belonging to the defender at the choice of the sorcerer. He teleports them away. The defending sorcerer kills things, with the exception of if they both have a sorcerer, then all losses on both sides are dispersals. I think it's possible that there's nowhere to disperse to, and then you'll just drown them or something. But the hero can only be attacked by another hero or a dragon. Cannot be attacked by any other kind of force, and that includes orcs, I guess. A hero leading an attack can attack all types of forces and the dragon. A hero cannot attack the wizard. Okay, but somewhere or another we have attacking the dragon and wizard here. Okay, if the dragon or wizard is in an unoccupied space, you must use your normal campaign in order to attack either. Why, I don't know. If the dragon or wizard is in a space occupied by another player's force or by orcs, the player can use a free attack, i.e. from a card, in order to attack the dragon or wizard. If successful, they can then attack this force in the space using a normal attack campaign, but only after the dragon or wizard's been removed. If the dragon or wizard is in a space occupied by a player's force, the player can attack it with a free attack campaign, but only with the force in the same space. Apparently, you can't use your normal attack campaign in that case. I don't know. It's like there's all this weirdness in this section. When you use your free attack against a dragon or wizard, you can't do a counter supplement. Okay, that's something I didn't explain. When you make an attack, at any point during that attack, you can flood more units in from adjacent spaces. Although I don't think you can denude the spaces, because when you capture a space, you can't denude a space. But we'll look that up if it becomes important. Okay. Now, a dragon which is slain by a hero force, okay, this is one of those weird things, is temporarily removed from play. So I guess the hero can kill the dragon, but the dragon will come back in his next dragon phase. If the hero was not slain, the victorious player gets 6 additional men, which he places in any of the spaces occupied by his forces. A dragon or wizard that's defeated by a sorcerer is not killed, but is sent to the victorious player's region choice. A die roll determines which territory it'll occupy. So you send it to a region, but you don't know which specific territory. The dragon will gobble up whatever it finds there by normal die roll. The wizard will prosper the territory. Now, if you remove the wizard, you're allowed to attack in that space. It doesn't seem like you're not allowed to attack if the dragon's there, although there are some implications of that. Somewhere else, it had something else about attacking the wizard. I don't know. that's about it, really. All right, and I'll load this up, and then we'll start the setup process. And there'll be a little bit of video on that, but for the most part, that's the game. Send it up.